Welcome to another episode of So It's Not Just Me. I'm your host, Joanna, and before we go any further, I want to put out a trigger warning. This episode, we're going to be discussing pregnancy loss. It's a very heavy topic, and I believe it's very, very important that we talk about the conversation, not just for those who've gone through it or a similar experience, but for everyone, because you never know who you're going to be talking to, who is going through something. So, as always, we're here to create a safe space to talk about these things, and often these things can feel very heavy and you feel like you're carrying them alone. So, with that, I'd like to introduce my guest, Catie, who's going to talk to us about her experience. So, welcome, Catie.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you for coming. Can you just give us a quick, brief introduction to yourself, what your life is, and why we're here today?
Yes, so I'm Katie. I am a 28-year-old first-time mom. So I've got a son at home. I'm also a working mom. So I am fully in the busy stage of life. I'm actually in the catering sales business for weddings. So I work at a hotel. So I'm just a very busy working balance between me, my husband, and my son. But yeah, I'm just doing the life thing and trying to grow my family and career at the same time. But life has its challenges, so that's
Yes,
why I'm here.
I'm very glad you're here. Um, And as I always say, let's just jump straight into it. As I said, this is a very safe space. If we need to stop, we will stop. If we need to take a pause, we will. Um, so, like you said, you've got a little one already. How old's Bennett now?
Bennett he's almost 20 months, so he'll be 2 in December, so
Nice.
almost 2.
And
Yeah.
when did you think that you was going to have more kids? Was it straight away you wanted more, or did you just think one
Yeah, I
day?
mean, yeah, I mean, I've always wanted a close gap between kids. I grew up really close to my siblings in age, and I always imagined having kids really close in age growing up. So wasn't so sure how soon it would be. I mean, it was kind of just one day, I mean, he was a little bit after one, and I was like, okay, I'm not ready yet, but if it happens, it happens. And I've heard all the horror stories about two under two, so I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for that anytime soon. But then it just kind of happened, and we were just kind of like ready for it, and then here we are. So I'm just trying to figure out the age gap, but ended up being like pretty close in age. So definitely prefer them closer. So
Yeah, yeah. When when you initially found out that you was pregnant with number two, how was your reaction? How did you feel at the time?
yeah, so I mean, the first positive test that we got was just, we were kind of like, I was starting to feel kind of like off. And I was just like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to take a test just in case, because we weren't actively trying, but we were like, whatever happens, happens. So we might as well just test and see what's going on, because I felt a little off. And then, I took the test with both of them in the room, because I always imagined like I wanting to tell him and Bennett at the same time. Like if we found out about it, I wanted to find out as a family. So of course I was recording and got the whole thing on camera, but we just saw that first positive, and we were like, whoa, okay, like this is actually happening. Like it happened right away. Like, okay, I guess we're ready to go. Wasn't really expecting it, honestly. But just seeing that positive test was just like kind of put it all into perspective. Like, okay, we're gonna be a family of four now. It's happening. And Bennett's really excited, and he saw how happy we were, and of course there were tears and also anxiety, because I realized at that time they would have been pretty close to two under two. So just trying to get that age gap was close, but kind of right where we were hoping for. So we said we were ready. So for whatever happened. So yeah, we were very, very happy, very excited.
And I have seen that video, and um, it's so lovely, such a lovely video. I did well up. I'm not going to lie. Um,
Yeah.
these last few months, I've been a real crier anyway, but that video really did make me well up.
Yeah.
How was your husband when he found out? Was he excited too?
He was, and he was actually in denial for the first like part of the video. I don't know if you could tell, but he was literally like, that it's faint, it's faint. We have to take another one. I'm like, faint is positive. Like I'm telling you, like it's
Positive
actually
or
happening. He's like,
positive?
we'll have to take another one. So But yeah, he was definitely excited though. Like you could see it in his voice. He's like, okay, let's take another one, like ready to truly confirm it and just ready. But I think definitely between the two of us, he was more anxious, a little bit more scared because just, I'm not sure he was fully ready, but kind of had to be. I was like, you're part of this too. So you could have said no. But yeah, definitely was excited and anxious at the same time, naturally.
So, did you get like the normal early signs and things, same as like when you had Bennett, and was it the same kind
Yeah.
of sequence of events?
Yeah, it was similar, but weirdly enough, when I found out about Bennett a couple of years ago, I didn't feel any sort of pregnant. I just took a test because I had a dream, and I was like, "Weird, I don't know what's going on." And I was like, "Wait, I might be close to missing my period. Let me take a test." And I found out like I wasn't feeling any sort of way. So this time I was like, "Oh, I feel really sick." Like all of a sudden one morning I just woke up and I was like, "Oh, like everything's like smelled bad, tasted bad," and I was like, "That's really strange." So then it was like too early for me to test. I was like, I'm not going to do that. Like, there's no way. Maybe I'll just have a stomach bug or something. And then like 2 days later, I was still feeling the same way. And I was like, okay, I'm feeling off. Like something's there. So it was different for sure the second time around.
When um when you found out or felt that you was miscarrying, how did that feel? How was that? How did you realize?
So everything was so normal and fine, which is why it was so hard for me to process, I think, is one morning, like one night, just went to bed like normal, and then woke up just to get ready for the day. And then I honestly, like, I was just like, that's it just felt weird. Like I just ran to the bathroom and then there was just blood everywhere, unfortunately. And I was just like, and I just came out crying, saying, like, and I told Anthony, I was like, I just got my period. Like, I'm getting my cycle right now. Like, that's weird. Like, I didn't process in my head that I was losing it. To me, it was like, maybe I wasn't pregnant, like ever. Like, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe the test was a false positive. Like, I was so confused because it had only been like, it was almost 2 weeks of having like been pregnant as far as I knew. I took a test like early May, and then on Mother's Day morning is when I woke up and felt that. And it was just, of course, the worst day. But it was just so bizarre to me that it just was just gone. And then, and then the pain came through after that. And it was just like a full almost week of just, I was on bed rest. And it was just, it felt like a really bad, like just menstrual cycle, but it was just worse because when I explained it, went into the doctor and everything, they were like, you're pretty much like giving birth, like you're going through labor, whether you realize it or not. You're going through a labor and you're losing, you're expelling. So that kind of just really like I was like, okay, so just like I was pregnant, but it's just gone. So
Had you started telling anyone?
I had the one of the I think saddest parts about this whole thing for me was I had told my very best friend that I was pregnant, and we decided we were hanging out to celebrate Mother's Day together, like a couple of days prior to Mother's Day. So we met up and we were in a room together, and all of a sudden we both made a face at each other. And she pulled out a pregnancy test, and so did I. And we were like, "Wait, you're pregnant? I'm pregnant?" And we both were pregnant at the same time. And we were even talking about it, and we were like, "So when is your due date?" And we had the same exact due date. And it was
Wow.
so like, of course, so amazing in the moment. And we were just like so overwhelmed and emotional and started planning things. We're like, oh my God, they're going to be born around the same time. We can do a duo baby shower, this and that. And so yeah, that was like I think the hardest one for me was having that same date as my best friend because now she's having a fully healthy pregnancy and her baby's due that day still. But you know, things happen for a reason. So of course I'm still fully overjoyed for her. But I think that's going to be the hardest thing for me throughout this process is just knowing that what could have been with her. Just them growing up together, but and then, of course, I did tell, I think I told my mom first, but the way that it all happened was just so, it was hard because she knows everything. She's one of those psychic people. She's like, I know something's up. I know you're pregnant. And I'm like, and she knew, but I didn't say anything until I figured out that I lost it because I just wasn't, I didn't want to say anything yet, but like I just did. And then she felt horrible, of course. She was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." Because she thought she knew. She's like, "I knew you were pregnant." I was like, I was pregnant, but I'm not anymore." So that kind of hurt and just like, and yeah, didn't. And then people are just starting to ask me, like, when are you having baby number two? When's that happening? Is that happening anytime soon? And it just started getting harder and harder. I'm like, I, not for a lack of trying, it's not happening right now, like right this second, because, it was supposed to, but it just didn't come to fruition. It wasn't that baby's soul was too sweet for this world. It couldn't be here right now. So, yeah, just having to tell people that are just kind of asking, like, when's the next one? What's going to happen next? And just kind of having to be open about it. And I think that's also what brought me to just sharing it, because it made me feel better to be able to tell it like straight up, like, this is what happened. And as I did, so many more people were coming out saying that happened to me too.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Like, I can't believe how common that is.
I think that 2 points I want to kind of pick up on that. The amount of people that say, when are you having a baby? When's the next one? When are you having your first? You're married now, so when are you having kids? And that's something that obviously we found as well, especially going through what we're going through right now. As soon as you have one, people, and it's not everyone, and I'm sure they're doing it out of love, they're not doing it to be mean, but they need to realize we have a baby or we're doing something. If we're not having a baby right now, there's a reason for it. And whether that's a medical reason, emotional reason, or just because you're not ready or don't want to. And that's one of the things that really, really sticks with me is people don't need to ask. And
Right.
like I say, I know they're doing it out of love and care for you, but it's really hard for you to then have that conversation and say, if you're not ready to say the conversation.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's something that really stuck with me.
Yeah, it's definitely like sensitive, but I found like before I started talking about it, I was definitely taking it more like harshly and just like it was heartbreaking to talk about. But now that I'm like, I've accepted it, I know that baby just wasn't able to be here for a reason, wasn't time or something. There's a good reason that it didn't happen. So now that I'm talking about it and accepting it for what it is, definitely helps, and just like sharing that story and just hearing from so many people, the amount of people that have messaged me saying like I went through the same thing,
Yes.
like almost at the same time. Even some people, I'm like, and you never know what these people are going through and how hard it can be. And like, you think it's going to be easy the second time. It was easy the first time around, it's going to be fine this time, and it wasn't. And it's like, it's very common. And I've heard it's even more common like in between, like trying to conceive the second one. Even me, like my sister wouldn't exist if it didn't happen between me and my brother. Like, it's just, and same thing, like my husband, he wouldn't exist if it didn't happen between his sister and like, that's just
Yeah.
the things that just happen. It's all for a reason, and that baby is going to be here in the right time and place. So
Yes.
yeah.
And it sounds like you have a very positive attitude going forward anyway. And I think that's the thing. Once you are ready to talk about it, that's what's important. Being ready to take the next step. And like you say, there's so many people, like a lot of the things. I had an very early miscarriage a few years back, and I just didn't know what to do because it was, quite a few years back now, but it was before people were as open as they are nowadays. You don't talk about things like that. It's kept to yourself. It's hush hush, and it's so difficult. It really is. Um, and you really, really don't know how many people are going through the same or something similar. Um, Once you had everything confirmed and things, what kind of support system did you have? I'm sure Anthony was absolutely wonderful at support because he seems that kind of guy.
Yeah, definitely. Just fully there, just taking care of me throughout the whole thing. He went with me to the appointment, made sure everything was okay, and just made sure I was comfortable, because I mean, physically, it takes a lot on you too. So just being comforted at home. And it's hard also having a baby at home, having a toddler at home that's, running around wanting my attention. And I'm just like, a ball in bed crying and in pain. Like it's hard. So he was definitely the number one supporter, taking care of that while also taking care of me. And of course, my both my sets of parents on both sides were super supportive and just, checking in on me, just making sure we're all good. And again, I also heard from almost all sets of my parents that it happened with among all of the ladies in my life that they've gone through the same thing, and I didn't know that. Like I didn't know that between any of them, so that was comforting enough in itself to know that it wasn't just me. Um, and yeah, it was just my friends, of course, my best friend, um, going through that with her. Of course, she was, I think, almost more heartbroken than me, if that was even possible, which just shows like how much of a great friend she is. But just,
Yeah.
being there for me during that time and just really giving me that advice that I needed and like the right words, just saying like, she's the one who told me, she's like, that baby, like the right one is going to be here and nothing was your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. And like something that my doctor said too was just that you didn't do anything wrong. There was something like abnormally, like chromosomally wrong with that baby. So it couldn't come
Yeah.
to life. So that really, really settled me because I kept thinking of all the things like, what did I do? Like, what did I eat? Did I like, maybe I exercised too hard? Did I lift too much at work? I had worked a wedding that day. Like, what's going on? But yeah, just to get that confirmed and support from kind of all aspects was huge for me. So
That was something that I felt. Um, I actually felt it with my miscarriage and with the two IUIs that haven't worked so far for us. I felt guilt. Like, why am I not? What have I done? And I never really had anyone to say it's not your fault. Um, Obviously, it's easier now because Kyle's great, but it's it is that you beat yourself up and you're constantly thinking, "What did I do? What did I do?" And a lot of the time, it's absolutely nothing. Like you say, it's just a deficiency that happens and it can't be helped. I think I read somewhere that about 20% of between 10 and 20% of pregnancies end in miscarriage. And that is a huge number. That like
yeah,
when you think about it, when you are going through it, you think that you're the only one and you're the 0.5% or something, but it is a really, really high number. And it's scary how high that is, and it is going up and up and up.
right.
So I'd be very interested to see why or look into why it is going up and why there are so many issues that people are having nowadays.
Too. That's definitely like I didn't realize the percentage either. Like when I heard that too, like, and that's what one of the facts my doctor gave me too. She's like, you have no idea how common this is. Like it is what it is. Like at this point, like it's so common and it's very sad, but unfortunately, it happens to most, like a lot of people at one point in their life.
Did you take any steps to protect yourself? So, like mentally, physically, once you started recovering, how did you look after yourself?
Just like try to just reassure myself with all those things that, my doctor, my best friend, and Anthony were all telling me. Just trying to keep that mindset going that it's not me, it's not my fault, I'm not doing anything wrong. And just trying not to, let it take over because if I truly let it do what it could have done, like I could have gone like back into like I could have had some sort of depression. I could have just not gotten out of that bed like ever. Like I could
Yeah,
just stay in that bed and cry about that baby that I never got to have. And it's someone that I never got to meet, but was so beyond in love with that that it was just taken from me. Like I was trying not to well in all of that for too long because I knew one that baby is always looking over us now. It just didn't belong down here, and that it's sending the right one, sending the rainbow one down when it's ready because that one was not going to make it. So just trying to really keeping that in my head helped me a lot, and just a lot of just I read a lot of stories. I'm on a lot of like TikTok pages now too that are just like relatable to that, and just listening to how common it is and how people feel and how they're coping with it just really like it matches mine more than I thought. And it's just it's crazy how much that relatable content can truly help you. It's a therapy to have that to go to. So
Yeah, that's something that I think as well, very much so, is having, even if it's not somebody for you to talk to, but somebody to listen, that you can listen to and see how they go through things and how they're coping. And sometimes you pick up skills and techniques that you've not thought of yourself,
right.
which I think is really, really useful. I did an episode recently about social media and how it can be the best thing and the worst thing at the same time. And I think these kind of occasions, when you are needing something that's not necessarily your family or your friends, you need to reach out elsewhere. Social media for support groups is really, really, really useful. I really
Yeah.
like it for that.
Yeah, definitely me too.
Did you did you kind of pick up any advice that you would want to share with people who may be going through the same situation or have gone through anything recently or anything like that?
Yeah, it just, I mean, honestly, like, I know how hard it is to be open about it and talk about it, but I didn't think I was ever going to talk about it. I really thought that it was something that I was just going to, swallow and get through like I used to do with a lot of things in my past. I feel like I'm that type of person where I'm just going to, I have to push through and get over it and it's going to be fine, but it's just motherhood itself has just changed a lot of my perspective. And it's just like there is a world of resources out there that the community of mothers is just it's such a wonderful thing right now. I mean, to have mothers to look to and to ask questions. And I don't know how many moms groups I'm in right now, but I'm in so many like on Facebook and just being able to reach out even as an anonymous person. Like I post anonymous posts all the time, which is great because if there's people in there that I don't want to know what's going on, but I still want to reach out, I have that option. Just reaching out to people and just reaching out, even if it's to share like just a snippet of what's going on, someone is going to relate and someone is going to say something or feel something like similar that's going to like help you. Like that's just probably one of the biggest things I would say is just talking about it because I, again, wasn't going to say anything, but then when I realized like I had that video and like every time I watched that video of finding out that we were pregnant and then like that just being taken away, like it was just like if I share this, like it's vulnerable and someone might see it that might feel better. And surely enough, I got multiple messages of people who've told me they had the same thing happen and they haven't posted or said anything. I wouldn't have known that, but they heard me and they saw me and they reached out and said like, you made me feel so much better. I can't believe I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
So just getting that out there, whether it's anonymous or not, I would suggest just using your resources and getting your voice out there and trying to, see if someone can relate. And you never know what someone might say that might just truly flip your day around.
I think that's really, really good advice. I think that we live in a society where everyone judges too quick, so you don't always want to put out there how you're feeling and how you're doing and what you're doing. I know, like the podcast, I think I was very vulnerable when I started the podcast. I'm not too bad now, but I knew that if I didn't say something with some of the things I was going through, even if I just helped one person, and I think that's what is really, really good. If you know that you can help one person to feel better, and that's kind of how the whole thing goes. You just need to help that one person. You don't need to, obviously, but to help that one person, it's like your
Yeah.
forever one good deed a day is just helping that one person to know that they're not on their own because it is a
Yeah.
very, very lonely place.
Yeah, it is. And even when you do that too, it helped me heal too, to get that in
Yes.
return, to know that someone else felt better by what I said is helping me get through this still because it's something I'm never going to fully get over. It's still trauma that I've experienced and that is going to live with us and we grow and we learn from it. But that's just something that it's an added bonus to be able to share that and help someone and help myself at the same time.
Yeah, I like that. I like that's a very good attitude to have. Very good attitude. What, if you don't mind me asking, what are your hopes and plans for the future?
So, of course, healthy baby, another one on the way soon enough, and then just having, I'm not sure how many we're gonna have, but of course, all the hopes for the healthiest of healthy babies and just growing our family and just still continuing to be that resource and hopefully positive light to people and just showing that, it gets better and you push through it. And rainbow babies are rainbows for reasons. It's to shine over after a storm. So just hoping you know, that comes to light and just helps people push through and yeah, have a new baby.
I know this is kind of a short and sweet episode today. It does feel like it's not as long as some of my other ones, but I do feel like we have got so much information in there in such a little time. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing your story. Do you have any final thoughts before I let you go?
I think I've pretty much covered all of it, but I'm so grateful for this and for you and for this podcast and just being that like the whole everything I kind of just mentioned, just being that outlet and that voice and just being able to share it. And I truly hope it helps someone today too, and that they can share it and just kind of grow from it and keep on pushing. And yeah.
Thank you. So I'm going to call it a day at that. Thank you everyone for listening today. If you are listening, um, if you do need to talk, we are going to get all the resources online for people to look at. I'll put them in the comments below. And if anyone needs to reach out, please do so because we are always here. And until next time, thank you.